In the early hours of a quiet December morning, a tragedy unfolded behind the gates of a sprawling mansion in Brentwood, Los Angeles, a place that had long symbolized success, family, and Hollywood legacy. Inside that home, 2 lives were brutally ended. By nightfall, a son was in handcuffs, and within days, a single sentence spoken outside a courtroom would send shockwaves through the legal world and the entertainment industry alike. The victims were Rob Reiner, one of the most celebrated directors in Hollywood history, and his wife Michelle Singer Reiner, a respected photographer and producer. Together, they had lived in that home for decades, raising a family surrounded by privilege, creativity, and fame. On December 14th, authorities discovered both of them dead inside their residence. Prosecutors would later allege that the couple suffered multiple stab wounds, turning what appeared to be a peaceful household into a violent crime scene. Suspicion quickly turned inward. Within hours, attention focused on their 32-year-old son, Nick Reiner. That same day, police located him miles away from the family home, near the campus of the University of Southern California. Surveillance video later showed him entering a convenience store, calmly purchasing a sports drink, before stepping outside. Moments later, police approached and took him into custody without resistance. By that evening, headlines around the world told a shocking story. The son of a Hollywood legend had been arrested for allegedly killing his own parents. The Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office wasted no time. Nick Reiner was charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, along with a special circumstance allegation for multiple victims. That single legal addition dramatically raised the stakes. If convicted, Nick could face life in prison without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty. Bail was denied. No motive was publicly stated. No explanation was offered for what prosecutors believed happened inside that house. The silence only fueled speculation. When Nick Reiner first appeared in court, one detail immediately stood out. At his side was Alan Jackson, one of the most prominent criminal defense attorneys in the country, known for taking on high-profile cases and winning against overwhelming odds. Jackson's presence signaled that this would not be a routine prosecution. Observers expected a fierce legal battle, but something felt off from the start. Nick did not enter a plea. His arraignment was postponed. The defense cited medical concerns, stating that Nick had not yet been cleared as the case unfolded. Attention shifted to Nick Reiner's past, a history marked by struggle, instability, and pain. For years, Nick had spoken openly about his battle with addiction. His issues began in his teenage years and followed him into adulthood. He admitted to cycling through rehab programs dozens of times, and even experiencing periods of homelessness across multiple states. These weren't rumors. Nick himself had shared these details publicly, offering rare insight into the darker side of growing up in a famous family. Those experiences eventually inspired the film Being Charlie, released in 2016. The story followed a young man spiraling through heroin addiction and homelessness, desperately searching for stability. The film was deeply personal and even more significant because it was directed by Nick's father, Rob Reiner, the man behind iconic films like When Harry Met Sally, A Few Good Men, and The Princess Bride. For many, the project felt less like a career move and more like a father's attempt to reach his son through art. During press appearances, including interviews on AOL's Build series, father and son spoke candidly about their relationship and what the film meant to them. But despite those efforts, Nick's struggles appeared to continue. In the weeks leading up to the murders, reports emerged of increasingly erratic behavior. At a star-studded holiday party hosted by Conan O'Brien, Nick reportedly approached guests in a confrontational manner, demanding to know who they were and whether they were famous. One encounter, described as deeply unsettling, involved comedian Bill Burr, who allegedly tried to disengage while Nick stared silently at him for an extended period. At the time, the incident was brushed off as awkward. After the killings, it took on a far more disturbing tone. Then came another revelation. According to reports, Nick Reiner had been diagnosed with schizophrenia just weeks before his parents were killed. Sources familiar with his condition said he was heavily medicated and mentally foggy while in custody. One report stated that Nick did not appear outwardly grief-stricken after the deaths, describing him instead as disconnected and emotionally flat. These details raised profound questions about his mental state and whether he fully understood his actions at the time. After the alleged killings, Nick reportedly checked into a hotel in Santa Monica around 4 in the morning. The next day, hotel staff entered the room and made a horrifying discovery. Blood was reportedly found throughout the space. That finding triggered another wave of investigation, but it also introduced potential legal complications. Questions were raised about whether police searched the room without a warrant and issue. That could later affect whether evidence from that room would be admissible in court. As public interest intensified, Nick was brought back into court for what many believed would finally be his arraignment. Instead, the hearing took a stunning turn. Just before proceedings began, Alan Jackson asked to speak privately with the judge. Minutes later, he returned to the courtroom and announced that he was withdrawing from the case. No public explanation was offered. Nick Reiner was immediately appointed a public defender, and his arraignment was postponed once again. Observers inside the courtroom described a surreal scene. Nick did not appear surprised by the sudden change. He was seen chatting and even laughing with deputies. His head was shaved, his face worn, but he did not appear visibly shaken. His siblings were not present in the gallery. Jackson, on the other hand, appeared tense, pacing, checking his phone, his body language betraying the gravity of the moment. Then came the moment that changed everything. Outside the courthouse, Alan Jackson stepped directly in front of the microphones. He did not dodge questions. He did not offer vague statements. Instead, he delivered a line so carefully worded that it immediately sparked nationwide debate. He said, "Pursuant to the law in California, Nick Reiner is not guilty of murder. Print that." Then he repeated it. "Print that." What Jackson did not say was just as important as what he did say. He did not claim Nick was innocent. He did not say Nick did not kill his parents. He specifically said that under California law, Nick Reiner was not guilty of murder. That distinction matters. Under state law, a person can commit a fatal act and still not meet the legal definition of murder if prosecutors cannot prove intent, malice, or mental capacity. Jackson refused to elaborate further, citing legal and ethical limitations, but the implication was clear. The defense was pointing toward mental incapacity, insanity, or a lack of criminal intent. The response from prosecutors was swift and firm. The Los Angeles County District Attorney addressed the media, emphasizing that every defendant is entitled to legal representation and that the state would fully comply with discovery obligations. But the message was unmistakable. They remain confident that a jury will convict Nick Reiner beyond a reasonable doubt of the brutal murders of Rob Reiner and Michelle Singer Reiner, and do so unanimously. For now, Nick Reiner remains behind bars, held without bail. His future rests in the hands of a public defender. His arraignment has been scheduled for February 23, 2026. Until then, the case exists in a state of limbo, suspended between questions of mental illness, legal definitions, and a family tragedy that has already left permanent scars. What truly happened inside that Brentwood home will eventually be laid bare in a courtroom. But one question still hangs heavily over this case. Was this an act of murder or something the law defines in an entirely different way? The answer will not only determine Nick Reiner's future, but could also reshape how justice is viewed when severe mental illness collides with unthinkable violence. Thanks for watching.